Howdy, y'all. Welcome back to the Inforunners. I am, as always, your space bartender, Paul the Astropub Shelley. And here I'm joined here by the Tasmanian devil himself, Mr. Execute, and coming from sunny California, the healthy, ripe tomato of Space Tomato. Welcome. Today we're going to be talking about. Well, first off, how are y'all doing today? All right, because we always talk about other things, but how are you all doing?
It's 5:40 a.m. in the morning. How do you think I'm doing?
Nice,
Tired.
nice. I'm doing well, personally. I got to say though, sunny, yes, but also quite smoky.
Yes,
Can't
very,
forget
very,
that.
very. It's that smoky feeling of I'm
Mm,
in California and it's
yep.
the summer
Oh yeah,
still,
that's right.
technically.
So
Yeah,
you
It's
guys,
summertime.
I thought you guys were going into fall, actually, as you guys call it, autumn.
yeah, but it's
Oh,
the
that's the
rain season.
extension of yeah. It's basically more summer.
Rainy
For
season doesn't
most of
start.
us.
Rainy season for California doesn't start until at least October.
Okay.
If you're lucky, it rains a lot between October and January, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Well, we're just coming into spring down here, so I'm having wonderful sunny days and all that stuff.
Oh
So,
Yeah.
God, that must be nice.
yeah, it's
We've got
nice.
in Austin's got we've got the perfect weather where it's like not too hot, not too cold, and we've got a bunch of storms coming in from the coast. So a bunch of tropical
Wow.
rain. So we got nice rain storms every so often. It's brilliant down here and not smoky. So I'm glad that I got out of California when I did. That's all I'm
What
gonna
what
say.
amazing August weather. Not
Yeah,
hot. That's crazy.
Mm.
yeah, yeah.
Love
For
that.
for Texas, that's insane.
Welcome to welcome to global warming, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
Back on topic.
Yeah.
After we've kind of discussed a little bit, we're going to be talking a little bit about the changes to 315 and specifically talking about how that is going to affect the gameplay. And is this a good thing or not? Is it too soon? So I why don't I'll get us started a little bit with the discussion for what we set out to talk about, which is that the main thrust of Star Citizen's gameplay, as we can see not only in the progress tracker but also just in the monthly updates and all of the ISCs, is that Star Citizen is moving much closer to a co-op experience or a online multiplayer experience than it currently is, which is, you know, it could be a single player game with multiplayer elements right now. But in the near future, with things like medical and inventory and multi-crew gameplay becoming, better, like multi-crew ships becoming the better ships, we
Yeah.
start to see that movement away from being able to play it solo and more towards emphasizing multi-crew or multiplayer experiences.
Yeah.
So what do y'all think about that?
Well, execute. You go ahead and take it
I
first.
I threw you under the bus.
You pointed
But
to
you'll go
me.
first.
All right. Well, I mean, it's something that most of us, I think anybody who's been here longer than 3 years knows that this is where it was going to go. This has been written down in documentation. It's been talked about in calling all devs and around the verse and 10 for the chairman. Like all these different times that this stuff has been referenced. I will say that it has been coming up a little less and less more recently, um, which could be on accident, could be on purpose, who knows? But it's definitely something that was expected.
Mm.
So I think the question now is not whether or not Star Citizen should have these systems in the game. I know some people want to ask that. I don't think that really is the question at this point. I think the better one is going to be, is it ready, as you said, and um, how deep does it need to get?
I think for me, like you get a lot of solo players out there that are worried that they're not going to be able to solo, and I think the question when I break it down to me is like, how punished are they going to be for playing on their own? And what I mean by that is if you kind of look at the ship classes, so you kind of got small, medium, large, and capital, you can clearly see that group play progression, you're rewarded as you go up for working together, but you really need to kind of stay small, maybe medium, if you're going to work solo. You can't really like how realistic is it going to be to run an Idris solo, even if you have all the NPCs? Like, and that's
Yeah,
something
yeah,
that we can
If
probably
you,
tackle in a full episode, but
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think
I
it's going
mean,
to be a thing.
I think if anything, and this kind of leads into this, is that like we talked about that like 315 is starting to make friends a requirement. I don't think CIG is outwardly punishing players who chose to be solo. I think what it's doing is it's rewarding players who choose to play together, and that's the key with
Does
these big changes.
Yeah,
maybe
it's the natural.
sorry, I was
Go
going to
ahead.
say maybe punishment's not the right word, but like how much is it going to limit them? Like if you're
Yeah.
only ever
Well,
stuck to small and medium ships, then that's kind of a little limiting. Let's be honest.
it
You know?
is,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but at the same time, as Tomato said, like this is not something new. This is something that's been planned for
Exactly.
years. And CIG has even said like they don't want to make it so that solo players can't play, but it's obvious that they're trying to make it so that they're encouraging you to play with other people. For instance, medical. I think we talked about this beforehand, but I think we're
Yep.
all on the same page with this. Is
Yep.
that the medical system fundamentally is a good thing. Adding it in 315 is a good thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because it'll actually keep you alive longer, because those bugs that would kill you as you're running into your ship and you just randomly just trip over your feet and die. Well, now instead of dying, you're in a down state, and somebody can walk over and just be like, "Get up, buddy," and hit you with some medical pens, and you are up and running again. So
that saves
the
you
times you've just been yeet your computer into the nether because it's like, I'm so frustrated. Now it's just like, oh no, I have a friend now.
Yep.
And now I'm not dead. Now I can continue my mission.
Don't
So
have to
That's
wait
how
for
it'll
the
be.
don't have to wait to reclaim the ship. Don't have to wait 20 minutes to go back to where you're going from, etc.
yeah.
But the other side of that I said to you after you said that was, but now you have to travel home to park the ship.
Mhm.
So that becomes a time thing. So now you've got 20 minutes to get out to somewhere, and when you're ready to go home, you got to have 20 minutes to get back. And I think that's the fundamental change. Like, yes, you can technically log out where you are, but what happens when you log in next time? Like, are you going to be able to log back in? Are you going to have to log back in and then travel to somewhere else because your friends are there? And was it further than before? There are many questions there.
This whole idea, I mean, that goes towards the idea that planning is going to be a big part of this game. And this is something that I'm still kind of thinking about myself, but I keep going back and forth on it. And honestly, I'm realizing that for a game to have a system, supply and demand, economy, the NPCs, everything to work together, there are going to need to be parts of the game that everybody hates, right? Because there have to be reasons for people to not want to do things so that the game naturally creates the openings for other people to do them. So like we can't have people care about building a legacy, making a name for themselves,
Yeah.
keeping their ship lasting, keeping their crew alive if death doesn't actually suck. And I feel like this medical system, where it is right now, and what they're talking about doing with it is a decent halfway point, because while dying is kind of going to suck and this whole respawning thing is kind of going to suck and flying back to wherever you need to fly to, at the same time, you're going to... I just lost my train of thought.
No,
But
I
it was
get where you're
all
going.
leading to the same point.
Yeah.
To add on to this, this is something that I've personally ascribed to, and I've mentioned this before in other casts. I may have mentioned it here on Inforunners as well. Is that I am a firm believer that there is a realm of gameplay which gameplay designers have yet to really tackle or really kind of really deep dig into as a gameplay. A game doesn't have to be fun as long as it's engaging.
That's true.
For example, spreadsheets aren't fun, but they can be engaging to the right player because planning is important. And so planning and getting people, knowing people who are doing things properly, and then executing a fun part, that planning becomes part of the engagement. Being, I can't die, I have to survive, so I have to get this medical treatment, is an engaging thing. It sucks. No one's going to be like, oh yes, I really enjoy getting shot in the face by an NPC and then have to drag back to protection, getting stabbed by somebody to wake myself back up, and then afterwards I have to spend 20 minutes going to the hospital to get my legs broken and lose half the money that I gotten from that mission in the first place. No one wants to do that. But
See,
if you didn't have that, the whole purpose of you going into that bunker and going shit, I'm going to die if I fuck up, loses its appeal. So it's
Yeah.
it's part of that engagement. It's part of that I'm worried about where I am. And so I think it's a good thing overall.
so you've just triggered a thing in my head, and both of you did this, and it's just kind of been reinforced now. Just how every group is going to have, like, so you've either got to have, everyone's going to have their own basic medical facilities, or you're going to have a medic in almost every ship. And the further out you go, the more remote and dangerous it becomes. So and I think that risk and reward is going to be a real massive part of the gameplay. It really is. Like, the further out you go, so like, look at your Carrick now. We know that goes out on its own and it's got that level 2 bed, but if you get really hurt, you're dead because you can't get a level 3 bed.
You have to feel the pain for your bad decisions.
Yeah.
Whether that means not having enough people, like strength in numbers. That's just how we are. Like, humans are better in numbers. So it makes sense that a game is going that's based on doing well in such an environment as space is going to do better in numbers. Like, they can't just say we're going to make it just as fun, just as easy, and just as in depth to play by yourself as it does with group, because it doesn't make sense.
And that's the trajectory
Well
that
said.
the Star Citizen is definitely going on. It's 100% the trajectory that Star Citizen is going on, and it's obvious. Now, here's the secondary question to this. Is Star Citizen ready for that? Is Star Citizen ready for this big change where people are moving towards these multi people with the bugs, with the only 50 people per servers, with the limitations in terms of like gameplay that we have right now? As I'm sure Executes can bring up, like the prisons, for instance. The prisons, I think, are seen as a failure by CIG because they implemented it too soon. They just implemented it because they had it rather than if the game needed it. There will be some people who disagree, but most players who do any kind of criminal activity will tell you prisons aren't fun. They'd rather just log out or just log into an alt account than have to deal with it. And so what you're dealing with is players avoiding the gameplay to get around it because it's not fun or engaging. So,
and I think
Star Citizen ready for this?
They know that in hindsight, though.
Before we dive into that, just talking about the prison and the medical gameplay, I will say I think they've learned from the prison gameplay that they even if it's a good idea, they do need to have it more fleshed out. And it feels like the medical gameplay is definitely a more fleshed out idea.
What do you think? Do you think
I have to analyze what he just. Yeah, I kind of just have to analyze what he said there. But my only concern at this point is that having to go back part, because that was always actually kind of slight convenience. Oh, my night's over. Log out. Just go to bed. I don't. So like, that's going to be the last thing you kind of want to do. It's like, do I just log out here, or do I travel 20 minutes to get back to Mount Everest Harbor?
Right.
And that's the part I've got to analyze, and I won't know that until they release it. I honestly.
I've always wondered to myself playing Star Citizen, because when I decide I'm done playing, like I decided I want to be done playing, I'm generally done playing within like 5 minutes, and I'm like, what's it going to be like when we're actually playing this game? And I decide I'm done playing, but it's going to take another half hour before I'm actually done playing.
I remember watching you on stream once, and this guy rudely rammed you with a Redeemer, and you just quit on the spot, like ended your stream, everything. It was really, yeah.
I don't remember that.
It was me. I hit you with the Redeemer. Anyway.
Oh, wait, when was?
That was a couple of months ago. Anyway.
Yeah, that was like 3 months ago, 4 months ago. No, I remember that. I remember that fondly.
It was funny, man. But do you know how hard it is to hit a ship with a Redeemer? Like, I had to.
Not the Redeemer though. What was the Redeemer's not out?
No, Reclaimer. Yeah, I went past you like 4 times trying to get you because you kept moving.
Yes. Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah. Subtly moving past him. But yeah, it's having this kind of actually goes back towards bringing more value to people who plan, right? You bring a ship with a bed in it, and suddenly now you don't have to go back to wherever you wanted to log out. And that might not be working that well right now, but in theory, I would expect that to be much more reliable within a year. Once they're starting to do more of this server backend stuff, things are more reliable. I think the bed logout could be an actual reliable option.
I would agree with you in that one. I think one of the problems that people are assuming is that they're assuming that they're adding these things without any additions by CIG or improvements by CIG in 315. For all we know, CIG could have fixed a lot of the problems with bed logouts. They could have fixed some issues with 30Ks where you get logged back into where you were rather than just dropping you randomly. I've heard multiple reports of people getting 30K'd and then being able to get back into their ship where they were after 30Ks. Multiple discussions on things like iCache being kind of slotted into the game or starting to materialize even in 314. So there could definitely we're waiting for the ISE next week, but we're also waiting for CitizenCon to know a little bit more about how this is going to change. I feel like CIG wouldn't make this dramatic change without some attempt to improve the gameplay.
Well, we say that.
One of those things.
So what about?
Sometimes we're like, no, CIG wouldn't do that.
So you mentioned logging out and stuff just before when you were saying that, and it triggered in my hand. But what happens is 30K dying, or is that logging out? And does that mean you come back in your ship that you slept in, or do you go all the way back to the hospital? Do you go back to your hab? Like, what is that now?
Yeah, we haven't.
And we don't know.
We didn't get enough info, to be honest. I mean, we got a lot of info on the system, but there are tons of questions still around logging out. And I think that's a huge point that you're making.
Mm-hmm. I think those are the unknowns. I think overall, I feel like this is a good change, but I'm still wary because this is the same CIG that dropped us carts that have no purpose and prisons which are bad for the game.
And the medical guns. Not the mounted turrets.
Mounted turrets, which are pointless. So we've got a bunch of pointless additions in some cases that actually make the game worse in terms of gameplay because their added bonuses aren't in yet. And then CIG admitting that they don't want to do that, and then in the future, and then they're going to release medical and inventory. That feels like a tip that's saying, yeah, this next patch is going to suck. You're just going to have bugs, and you're just going to have to deal with it. You're just going to hate everything. You're going to feel like what the criminals have been feeling like for the last whatever year or so since prisons are in. Congratulations, you're now going to experience that thing, normal lawful players, and that's my fear. That's the thing that I sit here go, I hope they fix this, but that seems like they need to address it because
those three. Sorry, I have to interrupt. Those three things that you mentioned, the carts, the mounted turrets, and there was one other thing that I forgot, but they are mainly Squadron 42 based. You can tell just by the way they're being built. So they're
very obviously.
Yeah. So and I think that kind of goes back to the thing with Richard Tyler. What's his name? Richard. I still remember his name.
Tyler.
Yeah. With them not putting Squadron 42 stuff directly straight into the game. So I think we will see less of that now because they know that they've been chucking stuff in that just doesn't need to go in. And it's
but the question becomes, when's that going to happen? Is that this next patch? Is that he's referencing this patch, or is he referencing future patches like 316 and beyond?
I think
it seems like it's too soon.
I think it's probably something that they were already thinking about a couple of patches ago, and they've started to do. Mainly because this is still I guess a hypothesis, but it seems like the patches kind of are starting to get themes a little bit. Like the last patch was very combat oriented, and so you saw a lot of features supporting that gameplay. This patch feels kind of more survival focused with the inventory stuff, the looting, the medical stuff, the hospitals, and I'm waiting to see what happens with 316. But it might be that they are starting to look to settle into these updates that are about a subject that they can build out the features around.
So, Mr. Tomato, where does the Redeemer and the two Aries fit into medical theme gameplay?
It doesn't all have to be in the theme. I mean, look at a No Man's Sky patch, right? They just released a patch, and the theme is settlements. Everybody's talking about settlements, but there are other things in the update.
Yeah. I mean, the ships are also a completely different thing. Like ships themselves have been a steady, consistent thing for years now, but the biggest problem they've been having with it is gameplay not being consistent. So this is what they're hoping to do, is to turn the gameplay into a consistent rollout where it comes out and you get the same quality that you get with ships. Like you see the Redeemer, you're expecting all of the guns to work, the ship to turn on, to fly around, to survive in combat. And the only thing you're worried about is balance. Whereas
Yep.
with gameplay, it's like, why the it would be like getting the Redeemer, but getting the Redeemer in the hangar, and
Mm.
that's it. It'd be like those days.
Doesn't
It's
have
like
any thrusters on it.
we have a hangar queen that literally can't do anything. I can't even get into the ship and turn it on. That's what it's like to get like prisons and carts and mounted guns. It's like, cool. Who cares? Like, this doesn't really help me at all.
Basically, what they were saying, like the T0, we don't want T0 anymore. We did it for a little while. We're over it. Give us T1.
I'm still worried. I'm just still worried that change is going to happen after 315, and so that 315 we're going to still have that same old hangnail that is, we decided not to fix some things because we just didn't have time.
I definitely can see the glitches being a big annoyance. I think that's just going to be it. I wouldn't say that it's too soon, to be honest, with medical. I don't think it's too early. But I do think that given, I think it should also be leading some of their development priorities. Like the features they're putting in should be telling them that next year is going to be the year about getting the game to a stable place to play.
They did state though that if you die in a landing zone, that you'll respawn with all your gear. So I would say most, not all, but most of the major bugs happen inside landing zones. So like falling through elevators and stuff like that.
Oh,
so yeah,
dying when you're getting into your ship in the very beginning. Yeah, those types of things.
I'd like to mention one more thing. This
Yeah, go
might have
ahead.
changed. But this is what was in the original Death of a Spaceman thing. They talked about in the case of crashes or glitches where you get kicked out of the game or something, one of two things, I think, maybe three, one of two things would happen. Either you crash out, so you leave the character becomes AI controlled, and if there are hostiles in the area, it tries to leave the area and then get you back to the last place you landed. Or if it can't leave the area, then it basically automatically assumes that you ejected from your ship safely and you were rescued and returned to that area. If there are no hostiles, then it just takes you back to that area that you were last at by default.
You'd want to hope you're not in an 890 jump carrying a whole bunch of people then when you eject.
Yeah. But and that sounds like it's still kind of far away, so that doesn't really, it doesn't affect what we're going to feel in the next couple updates. But for people who are wondering about that, I thought that was pretty interesting. I don't know if that's what they're going to do. But.
No, it's a good point because at least it knows their train of thought and where they're trying to aim for. So yeah. I've just got something here that I wrote down when we were talking before about the ships and beds. Like, I'm starting to think now about the diversity of ships, and I know one of the things on this channel, especially when we do the Fix My Fleets, is sell your fighters. That's like one of our things. But to me, it's becoming more and more clear. Like, I'm thinking the exception might be the Banu Defender and the Aurora, but and maybe there's very few fighters with beds in them. And so they're the ones that are going to really suffer with this medical stuff because they're the ones that really do have to go back to base.
This is going to make the 100 series so much more valuable.
No,
and then 100s, the Aurora,
because like this actually, I'm kind of starting to think this could be good. Like this could be the first step they take towards actually making us think about sleeping in space, like staying in our ships, which is nice. I want that.
It's another
regular thing.
It's another so like up to now we've kind of had combat in industrial. Beds, non-beds is another one, and there's going to be armor, non-armor, and as this goes forward, we're going to get that more diversity thing. And I think, well, you guys correct me if I'm wrong. Up until now, most ships are kind of samey. They're as I said, combat or industrial, and they're basically you fly a ship. Yeah, they just haven't had that.
We haven't experimented much,
Exactly. And I think that this is a good sign right here. The bed thing, that's a convenience, and it also shows you the difference between a long range craft and a short range craft and things like that. But it also comes back to that stuff you said about how we don't know if they've worked on the logging out and logging in tech as well. You'd want to hope they have if they're bringing in a big change like this, because I think that's going to be like, you tell me, when's the last time you logged out in a bed on a ship? because I haven't done it
not
in.
not to test not to test to see if I die.
Yeah.
To fix a bug.
I did it by accident last
you?
week. I didn't even mean to.
Yeah, that'd be great on stream. That'd be great. Everyone have a good laugh. That
It was actually. I won't get into it. I'll tell you guys afterward. But it's. Yeah, that's an interesting. Now I'm just imagining like a bed ship, like a ship that's literally just a giant row of a bunch of beds just flies around space.
Welcome
and they're
to
like,
my
log
brain.
off here.
Welcome to my brain, Space Tomato. I have been pushing for a ferry ship forever because everyone's like, oh, there's plenty of spaces. Like, there's no ship that doesn't have more beds than just for
Like
the crew.
positions,
There's none except for like the Endeavor. Like I've been thinking in my brain for so long, like, you need to have something like a ferry ship to be able to pick up ships and carry them to places and allow players to log off in a bed so that they can take this long journey on their own. But yeah, this is discussion if we're going way off like into the distant future.
Sleazy Space Tomatoes bum barge of dreams or something like that.
It's Hotel California. It's Motel California. It's just
all those
motels.
Pods. In the Japanese pod hotels, it'd just be those, like little pods all over the outside, like the
like the actual pods in the hex stations. It's a
Aurelian variant, but all the pods are just hotels.
Just call it the Juicy Inn.
Yeah,
Space Tomatoes Juicy Inn.
Yeah.
Let's finish off this discussion with a little discussion. Do you think that CIG still needs to balance some of these issues, or do you think that CIG is on the right path for asking players to group up together in order to have a better experience?
So that becomes a difficult thing, because I understand why people want to play on their own, but fundamentally, like, let's look at every other MMO in existence. Now, when you look at every other MMO in existence, they actually do gradually put you... Let's take WoW, for example. You start out leveling on your own. You eventually get to, say, like 20, and they put you into a dungeon with a few other players, like 5 players. And then eventually you work all the way up to the top, and then you do these raids with it was originally up to 25 people. And I think that if you kind of look at the natural progression, that is what Star Citizen is moving towards. The end game content is you sitting in a big ass ship like a javelin, shooting the crap out of other people, fighting for territory on a planetary scale where you're dropping off troops, you're coming in with bombers. Like, the whole thing is insane. It's that scene from episode 3 at the start of episode 3 of Star Wars. That's what I think they want.
Love that.
Or the Clendatho scene from Starship Troopers with like the stuff coming up and people running into the cargo and then coming down and remember your training and you will survive. kind of moments.
That's no flare. On the whole ship. Yeah. But
what do you think?
I don't know.
I think this talk has kind of made me believe more that this is a good direction. I do think the real question is it too soon or not? But just sitting here and talking about this and realizing there are two things that are really, really starting to kind of come together with this update. That's the beds, which we've been talking about now, the bed logout system, and group play. And I don't think we've had a single feature that came in and actually moved the game forward like this in such a long time. Like, not even, this might be this could be a hot take and I haven't thought it through all the way, but not even Planet Tech, I would say, is as fundamentally like a big deal. And that we can start to have these conversations about these bigger, more complex ideas, like playing in large ships together and how's the logistics going to work. I love that the conversations are changing more towards that.
I think I
agree.
Yeah,
I think I agree with your hot take.
Yeah, so when you're saying about planetary tech, I think what you're saying is something that's given the players as they play a fundamental shift. I think that is what I agree with.
Yeah, because Planet Tech was big, but like we could do all of that stuff in space, right?
I think planetary was big for a different reason. So one's game.
It's not at all not a big deal.
One's more gameplay and one's I can't even I don't even know where to put planetary tech, but
Pillar.
it's impressive. It's a pillar. Yeah,
fundamental pillar.
it's different.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just, yeah, I there are still a few unknowns for me in my head, and I do think it's going to initially slow the gameplay down,
Mhm.
and I do worry, and this is probably a topic for another time, is how much it's going to slow it down. How are people going to have enough time to do things?
Yeah.
You know, like, because like I know people that jump in to do, say, a game of League of Legends, and they do, 40 minutes, and then they go back and hang out with the kids. And we are talking about a demographic here that I would say that this is an older demographic than most games.
Mhm.
You know, this game has been funded by a lot of people that have let's say, a more disposable income. And if you're an older person, let's say in your 60s, yeah, your kids have gone off, you've got more free time. And then again, if you're younger, you've also got more free time. But those people that actually have kids, and I know a lot of people on the Inforunners Discords that do have kids, are they going to have the time when the game comes out? Are they going to have 20 minutes free, or are they going to have an hour and a half free? And so, like look at it, like just to not even do a mission or something, but 20 minutes to get out to somewhere and 20 minutes to get back.
Mhm.
That's 40 minutes without even doing what you went out to do.
That's I think that's a good point. That's a
That's
really good
I think that's
discussion to have.
I think that's a topic to have later, because I think the
Mm,
key thing about that is, because what it comes down to is density of content.
yeah,
Mhm.
Right now, density of content is very small
yeah.
because there's a bunch of systems that are in place. So that's one of those discussions that is probably not good to have until we can see what CIG is looking for density of content. Because, like, for 315, as we're getting towards this area, we may have a gap between when density of content becomes a bigger thing and when gameplay systems are being rolled out.
Well,
So for a small amount of time, it may require you to take 2 hours of gameplay simply because there's not enough missions or things to do in a planetary system until without even with people, without taking an hour for planning and
yeah.
prepping and going out.
Well,
But maybe closer to release or closer to a beta, we might see more content. So it's hard really to tell right now. But that is a good point to bring out there with this movement towards multi-person crews and multiple people working together, which requires more planning
yeah,
and more time
that's what I was
working
going to
together.
say.
It may
Yeah.
leave some of these older backers kind of in the lurch. But I think that's also a discussion for a completely different video. I know when we started this, we're like, this is like 4 different videos when we started talking, started actually hashing it out. So
Yeah, it does come back to what Space Amanda said about requiring more planning, and maybe we'll do another episode
yeah.
soon.
And it's also very much possible that I expect to play sessions of this game where all I will do is travel. That's sometimes that's just how it's going to be. I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be like, "Hey, I want to do a group session this weekend over in Pyro, or no, over in Terra." So I would spend an entire day getting everything from Stanton that I might want for the next, month, for the next couple weeks, right? Stuff that I can't get in Terra, getting all of that into my ship, going around to the different planets and moons that I want, jumping over to the Terra system, and then getting into Terra, maybe meeting up with some friends, hanging out in the city for a bit before we log off, and then getting out of there. But that's like,
So yeah, I'm pointing this up there to the top left to remind Execute to put a link to the last discussion we had that Ian Execute had on
also pointing
inventory.
here. It is right here.
Put it. It's right. Oh, it's
No,
up, you're
it's
up
up
there.
over
It's
there.
up there.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's over here.
Yeah, right over here, right over there. Yeah, go there, click that video, and
Right
watch
now.
that as well, because we also discussed that. So now that we're finishing up, go watch that video, and we'll hear
Perfect
more about that
segue.
discussion. 'Cause we
Right,
talked
I'm
about that
taking
in
notes.
detail.
Fine.
Thank you,
You-
Execute.
forever the school teacher, Paul. Thanks. Yeah.
Knows
That's
how to
right.
run the room.
Yeah.
I will finish off with saying I think that CIG is moving everything in the right direction, and I think there's going to be some painting. There's some pains. There's going to be some teething pains, and I know people are going to get upset about it, but it makes for a better game. There's just Space Mono. You were on a captain's table where we talked about these features specifically when they were originally going to come in 314, and now that they've been moved to 315 and confirmed that they're coming out. We talked about then, which is like, it's a fundamental shift. The entire game changes on the edges of these. and it's scary, especially with the number of bugs we have that people go, we're going to fundamentally change everything, and I'm
Oh
still going to
boy.
die like crazy, and you're going to make it hurt. That's going to the immediate panic reaction is up there,
It,
but
it's not going to be the last either. Like
No. No.
how many
Whole
games
game.
are being developed while you play them?
Mhm.
No
doesn't
other.
happen that often.
Yeah.
Early access is this. They're at that foundation is finished, and they're building on top of that foundation. We don't even have the final pillar.
We're not too early access. Yeah.
Yeah,
Not even in-
we don't have that final pillar finished, and until that's done, then we can go right now. We're building on top of it, and like there are going to be other real big things. Like I kind of mentioned before with the ships, that, like just that alone, that's one small little thing about ships, but you can span that out to many different systems. And when I say systems, I mean systems within the game, not star systems. But yeah, you get my point. Like medical's the first big one, but like. Man, I can't even think of an example. Salvage comes along, and that's just one thing for those series of ships, and then you've got all the other stuff. Like look at Pyro when it comes out. The actual fuel that you were talking about getting resources together to go a couple of systems over for an event, right? You'll travel for an entire day, but what if you can't? What if you can't afford to travel there? Like multiple accounts is going to be a thing. They're going to be people that are going to go out and they're going to have a account that they play with John over there, and they're going to have another account where they play with Paul over there, or whatever. Like,
on the time conversation, that's super important. The smithing is a thing, correct? It's still a thing. So I think that's very important for the people who feel they won't have more than maybe 30 minutes to play. You will literally be able to inhabit an NPC with your friend and to play with them.
Yeah. So and I think that is I think they've recognized that that's a really important thing. So you can, well, I don't want to travel literal, like they've said it takes 22 days just to visit every star system in the game. If you've got to travel 4 days to get back to your friend, you ain't going to be playing with your friend very much, are you? And say you've got one guy that can play all the time, maybe he's unemployed or he's retired or whatever, he can play all the time, and then you've got the son that just comes home on the weekend to play with his dad. His dad can smith in with him and play with him. Like I think it's a real pivotal thing to be able to connect those humans together more than you realize, and I think they're onto they've seen that. They've worked out the design, and they know how big these systems are going to be. And we did an episode. Man, there's going to be another card up there now on just how big these stars. Paul, I hate you. There's going to be another one up in the corner up there.
You're welcome.
How you doing, man?
Yeah. It's terrible.
And the video and the link in the description below.
Yeah. But we did an episode on that on how big those systems are going to be, and long story short, I know that information went right around the community. I saw it on Facebook, I saw it on Reddit, and so people now are aware of how big and how long these terrible times are going to be. And I think something like agent smithing, while there are some people, I remember when it first came out, it was really polarizing. I think most people are going to come around to that once they start to see how long it's going to take to get between places, and they're going to want it. Not hate it, they're going to want it, just so they can go, right, well, I'm going to play with him today, so I can go over and do my piracy over here on a different account. I think
there's no better game. There's no better game for agent smithing. I mean, there are better games. There are not many games that are good for it, though. In a game where you don't actually have character-linked skills or traits, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's another really good thing that you've just kind of brought up too. The fact that there's no levels in this game. Space Commander could be playing for 4 years, and I drop in and I can play with him on day one. That's huge.
Could be better than me.
Exactly. The gap of what's the word they use there? When you jump into WoW and you've got to play for 2 weeks to get up to level 60 just to play with your friends or whatever. The skill gap. Yeah, the skill gap is non-existent. It's fantastic, and I think it's going to be another reason why this game is popular, because you can just jump in and play with your friends. There's no. Well, it was the same. Well, I remember the first time I played WoW, and my friends invited me. I'm like, I got to play for 2 weeks on my own to play with my friends. Like I was just like so turned off by that. I don't want to do that.
It's fair, yeah.
Well, I think this is a good discussion. I think we can
Mm.
leave it off at there. I think we're kind of circling back onto the same
We are.
discussions or leading into other discussions that we need to
Making
talk
points
about
on
later.
points on points. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you all for watching this. Make sure that you're subscribed. Make sure you hit the little bell notification so that you can see these when they go live. We want to hear your own thoughts. Do you think that Star Citizen's ready for 315? Do you think that we're being super too nice to Star Citizen CIG? Do you think? What are your own concerns?
Yeah.
What are you looking forward to? Do you think this is going to negatively impact solo play? Those all sorts of those things. We want to hear your own thoughts down below. Make sure that you're subscribed as well to Space Tomato. Space Tomato, what is there anything that's coming up that you want to plug for your own sake?
Yes, I'm actually working on a video that's going to talk about the medical gameplay, death of a spaceman as a concept, and how death is going to work in Star Citizen. And it's going to tell about why all of this has been inspired by Demon Souls. And that comes out this Friday. Actually, I'm
That's what it
pretty
was
sure I
here for.
quoted some of the script in this conversation. So
He's
it might
just
sound a
stolen
little
all
bit
our
of
ideas. No, it's fine. He's
Yeah.
just stolen
Yeah,
all our ideas. I said, yeah.
Myself, as I said in the last video, I am going to be joined by Execute and Space Tomato, and I think probably 20, 30 other content creators the day after CitizenCon. So we're going to be doing a live stream for charity. It'll be on YouTube and Twitch at the same time. We'll be discussing all of the post CitizenCon news, our own reactions, and so you'll watch us for any time for 24 hours. Plenty of content for you to digest and enjoy. And Execute and Space Tomato have both asked me. They both said, "Paul, if you're going to die, we'll take over the reins and try to run these things for you for a little while, because we know 24 hours is going to kill you." So
Yeah.
Oh
I
gosh,
sorry,
24 hours sucks.
I laughed there because I thought you said Star Citizen nudes, and then went, no, it had to be something else. It was
Star Citizen nudes, all of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
hottest Star Citizen
We have not
nudes.
gotten. We haven't even gotten there yet. There's not even a Rule 34 Star Citizen yet.
Oh, well, there you go. That's a whole nother kettle of fish.
Oh,
Squadron
boy.
42 is going to change that, but we'll see.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, so
I've been. Go ahead.
I was gonna say we do read every comment, so yeah, seriously, do let us know your thoughts and concerns, because I still think there's a little bit too much up in the air here.
There is. Yeah,
And
there's a lot
I do think there is going to be feedback aplenty when 315 comes out, and CIG. Will you correct me if you think I'm wrong? I think they are going to change things. I think it's so up in the air, unless they get the nail right on the head first to go.
They will, yeah. And I think
let's see.
they're going to get enough feedback on this feature that they could create an entire new program to handle it. There's going to be so much to be said on this. So yeah, things will change.
Yeah.
For sure.
Thank you again for watching. I've been Paul. He's been Execute. He's been Space Tomato. And thank you for watching. We'll see you guys around the verse.
Catch you in the next one. Space Tomato, say goodbye. Don't be rude.
Bye. Bye. Okay, bye.